In 1833, a painting appeared at the Paris Salon that made grown men weep in public. It showed no blood, no falling axe, no scream frozen mid-throat, just a blindfolded girl in a white dress reaching into empty air with rigid fingers searching for the block where she would rest her neck. Paul Delaroche had painted an execution, but he'd stripped away the violence and left only the waiting. The painting is The Execution of Lady Jane Grey. It hangs in the National Gallery in London, and if you stand in front of it long enough, something shifts. The discomfort doesn't come from what Delaroche showed. It comes from what he withheld and what he forced you to imagine in the space he left empty. This is a crime scene photograph taken before the incident. Lady Jane Grey was 16, possibly 17, when she died on February 12, 1554. She had been Queen of England for 9 days. She was a great-granddaughter of Henry VII, installed on the throne by Protestant power brokers desperate to prevent the Catholic Mary Tudor from taking the crown. The dying King Edward VI had willed the Kingdom of England to Jane. Mary rallied support. Jane lost. The charge was high treason. The execution took place on Tower Green, within the walls of the Tower of London. Eyewitness accounts describe what happened when they tied the blindfold over her eyes. She lost her bearings. She groped for the executioner's block and couldn't find it. She cried out, "What shall I do? Where is it?" Someone guided her hands to the wood. Delaroche painted this moment 279 years later in post-revolutionary France. His audience had lived through the terror. They had seen their own king and queen dragged to the guillotine. This painting gave them a historical mirror, a way to process execution trauma through the safety of English history. The girl on the canvas wasn't Marie Antoinette, but she could have been. The painting captures the instant between arrival and death. Jane has been led to the block. The executioner waits. The lieutenant of the tower, Sir John Bridges, guides her arm gently downward. Her left hand stretches into the air, fingers splayed and tense, searching for something she cannot see. Delaroche worked in a style called juste milieu, the middle path. He rejected the rigid heroism of neoclassical painting and the chaotic energy of romanticism. He wanted immersion. He functioned less like a traditional painter and more like a cinematic director, staging scenes for maximum emotional impact. His goal was to make history feel present, to transform the viewer into a voyeur intruding on a private trauma. He used smooth, invisible brushwork to erase evidence of the artist's hand. The technique was deliberate. No visible strokes, no texture that would remind you this was paint on canvas. The scene needed to look like reality, or at least like a stage play, not like a painting. He wanted you to forget you were looking at art and believe you were looking through a window. He also fabricated. The real execution happened outdoors on a scaffold. Delaroche moved it indoors to a dark, stone-walled space that feels like a dungeon. He did this to control the lighting, to create a theatrical spotlight on Jane, and to trap her in a compressed architectural box with no spatial relief. No sky, no horizon, just walls. The painting freezes what scholars call a pregnant moment. The outcome is certain. The action has not yet happened. This gap between inevitability and event is where the discomfort lives. Look at the floor directly beneath the executioner's block. There's a pile of straw, clean, yellow, neatly arranged. In Tudor executions, straw was standard equipment. It absorbed the blood so it wouldn't pool on the scaffold. It was an administrative detail, part of the procedural preparation for killing. Someone had to gather it, measure it, and spread it in the correct spot. This was a task on a checklist. Delaroche painted it bright and organized. The straw sits in a careful pile, placed with intention, currently clean, waiting. Once you notice this, your brain completes the image. The straw soaked red, her neck on the block, the axe descending. This is the painting's most effective manipulation. Delaroche doesn't show you the violence. He shows you the evidence that violence was anticipated, planned for, and prepared against. The straw is a foreshadowing device. It tells you that someone thought ahead to the moment when Jane's blood would need somewhere to go. That premeditation, the bureaucratic, administrative nature of the killing, is more disturbing than rage or passion would be. The clean straw forces you to imagine the aftermath. It transforms the painting from a static image into a mental film. You picture the before and after. You complete the crime scene in your head. The gore you generate is personalized, and therefore worse than anything Delaroche could have painted. He weaponized your imagination by giving you just enough information to fill in the rest. The straw is also evidence of routine. This execution required preparation, but not exceptional preparation. The straw was standard. The procedure was standard. Jane's death was one item in a sequence of administrative actions. That normalization of killing, the sense that this was a job, not an atrocity, amplifies the horror. Jane wears a luminous white satin gown. The fabric catches light and throws it back, turning her into the brightest object in a dark room. Historical records suggest she likely wore black or gray to her execution. Delaroche changed the color. He needed a light source. The white dress forces your eye to stay on the victim. You can't look away into the shadows for relief. The brightness traps you. White also carries symbolic weight. It codes purity, virginity, and martyrdom, the sacrificial lamb. But the function is more important than the symbolism. The dress is a spotlight. It's a visual design choice that removes your ability to disengage. The painting operates like a stage set. Delaroche was directing attention with light and color. He knew where your eye would land, and he made sure it would stay there. On Jane's left hand, the one reaching desperately into empty air, there's a wedding ring. She had married Guilford Dudley only weeks before her brief reign, a political arrangement orchestrated by her father-in-law to position his son as future king consort. The ring marks her as a commodity in a power exchange. She didn't die because of what she did. She died because of who she was married to and who her family was. But the ring sits on the hand that's searching. The gesture itself is what breaks through historical distance. Her fingers are splayed, rigid with tension. Her arm extends into space, grasping at nothing. This is the body language of blind fumbling, universal and immediate. Anyone who has ever reached for something in the dark recognizes this. The historical record documents her panic. Where is it? Delaroche froze that instant and gave it specificity. The searching hand is not graceful. It's confused, childlike, helpless. You want to reach into the canvas and guide her fingers to the block. You can't. That desire, and its impossibility, is the source of the discomfort. You're forced to watch someone struggle with something you could easily solve, but the barrier of the canvas makes you useless. Delaroche placed you at eye level with the executioner. You're not observing from a distance. You're standing in the room, close enough to see the weave of the fabric and the expression on the lieutenant's face. The executioner stands to the right in red tights, anachronistically tight, borrowed from 19th century theater costumes. He's not mid-swing. His axe rests, tip turned slightly away from Jane. The blade is not raised. It's lowered, waiting. He shifts his weight casually. He's waiting for her to assume the correct position. He's a professional doing a job. There's no tension in his body, no anticipation, no eagerness, just patience. His passivity is more disturbing than aggression would be. There's no rage here, no personal vendetta, just patience. He'll wait as long as it takes for her to find the block. Then he'll proceed. The axe will fall when she's ready, not when he's impatient. This transforms him from villain into technician. You share his vantage point. You are also waiting. You are also watching. You cannot intervene. Delaroche constructed the perspective to make you complicit. You're not viewing this execution from the crowd, from a safe distance where you could claim to be an unwilling witness. You're standing in the working space, at the same level as the man who will kill her. You occupy the role of participant, not observer. The lieutenant of the tower stands beside Jane, his hand guiding her arm downward toward the block. Look at his face. It shows pity, sorrow, reluctance. He is her jailer, the man responsible for her captivity and her delivery to this moment. Yet, he is also the only source of comfort in the room. He guides her gently. He does not rush her. This creates a moral complexity that resists simple judgment. He is compassionate while serving execution. Kindness and killing occupy the same gesture. This detail complicates the emotional landscape. You cannot point to a clear villain. The executioner is doing his job. The lieutenant is doing his duty with evident regret. The ladies in waiting are collapsing under the weight of what they're witnessing. Everyone in this room is trapped by circumstance, bound to roles they must perform. Behind Jane, two ladies in waiting have collapsed. One has turned her back to the scene, pressing herself against a stone pillar. The other is on the floor, semi-conscious. They represent two documented trauma responses, avoidance and shutdown. They can't watch, but they can't leave. They model the reactions Delaroche expects from the viewer. Part of you wants to turn away like the standing woman. Part of you feels the need to collapse like the one on the floor. But you can't do either. You're frozen in place, staring at Jane's outstretched hand, waiting for the moment that never comes. The painting gives you all the forensic evidence, but withholds the event. The block is there. The straw is there. The executioner is there. The victim is in position, almost. You have everything except the violence itself. Your mind fills the gap. You add the blood to the straw. You add the axe to the neck. You add the scream to the silence. The violence you imagine is personalized and therefore more effective than anything Delaroche could have depicted. This is why the painting was called unbearable when it debuted. Not because it showed too much, but because it showed too little and made the audience do the rest of the work. The French viewers in 1833 had their own reference. They'd seen the guillotine. They had a living memory of the terror. When they looked at Jane Grey, they didn't see a distant English queen. They saw the faces of people they'd known, or people they'd watched die. The painting was a safe container for processing national trauma. It was displacement. Jane became a stand-in for all the executions they couldn't look at directly. The painting never releases tension. There's no resolution. The moment is frozen permanently. Jane is still reaching. The executioner is still waiting. The straw is still clean. Delaroche understood anticipatory dread. The discomfort of waiting sustains longer than the shock of impact. There's no punctuation mark, no moment where you can exhale. The tension extends indefinitely. The blindfold ensures Jane experiences every second of her confusion in extended time. Sensory deprivation distorts perception. Seconds feel like minutes. She's lost in darkness while everyone else can see. The asymmetry of knowledge creates psychological isolation. She's in a room full of people, but she's completely alone. Modern audiences respond to this painting even though they don't care about Tudor succession politics. The emotional mechanism is universal. The fear isn't about 16th century history, it's about helplessness. It's about being disoriented in the dark while strangers wait for you to position yourself for your own death. Delaroche built the discomfort into every design choice. The fabricated indoor space compresses the scene. The white dress traps your eye. The blindfold removes Jane's sight. The frozen moment removes temporal relief. The clean straw forces mental completion. The painting is an architectural trap with no exit. It's still hanging in the National Gallery. People still stand in front of it and feel the need to look away. The straw is still clean. Jane's hand is still reaching. And you're still standing in the room, waiting with the executioner, unable to help.